I'm so tired of people saying that it's just a movie, it's just a comic book, it's just a TV show, whatever. No, it's not. Stories are the building blocks of our culture, of ourselves, even of our own psychology. We are a product of the stories we tell ourselves about our own past and the experiences on a daily basis, but also the stories that we choose to spend time with. What types of values or feelings or whatever are they promoting? What types that we like to spend our time around? They're going to shape us. They're going to shape our personality and character, and they're going to shape our perception of the world and the acts and behaviors that we put out into the world. And people don't understand that. They go, it's just a movie. It's just this. I can like and promote whatever I want. Well, of course you can, but you should pay attention to the responsibility that you have.
Consume stories responsibly.
As a member of society, as a human being, responsibility to yourself.
Consider the consequences.
You need some balance. You need some certain criteria that is going to make sure you're promoting the right kind of works, or at least have thought through the type of work that this or that story is going to do in our culture, and then make your own decision whether or not that's something you want to support.
Consume stories responsibly. Consider the consequences. Consume stories responsibly.
Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel, and welcome to another Office Hours live stream. Got some things to chat about tonight, hang out with you guys. Hopefully you guys had a good week. Hopefully you guys had a good Thanksgiving. I see, uh-oh. My mic's a little hot. Does that mean I need to turn the gain? Oh, you know what? I did move this interface down. Let me try turning the gain down a bit. Maybe that did. I don't know if that did anything. You guys can let me know what you think about that. I did move the interface down around because Al and Fanman and I were hanging out, and I moved this whole setup to my easy chair in the living room. So, I see audio is good, but then she said it was a little hot. I don't know. You guys let me know. Is it still a little hot? I know I'm a little hot, but, you know, is the audio still a little hot? But yeah, sounds good. Leah Plus Size says that's good. What was it? Studio 96 Films. It also said, how's everyone's Thanksgiving? Yeah, Thanksgiving's great. I hope you guys had a great one. Imaginative Hobbyist wishing that as well. Yeah, we had a great Thanksgiving. Hung out, went to my sister's house, and her in-laws came too. And whenever you have a big family gathering like that, everybody, you know, certain people bring this dish, then these people bring that dish, and so forth. And that's all great. That's fine. But nobody cooks any of those dishes as well as my mother. So we got back. My mom decided she was going to make Thanksgiving dinner again, just so we can have leftovers throughout, you know, and we took some to our place, and Sound Engraver just had some Thanksgiving leftovers dinner, and she was pretty satisfied. I'll be having it later because I needed a nap. So anyway. Let's see. Bradley Renfro. I also honor Matt Mitchell's 10 Commandments of Southern Thanksgiving. Matt Mitchell, what a treasure, a comedy treasure he is. I'm so glad I had him on my channel back in the day before he started his own and really, like, you know, took off. He's like way too popular to, you know, come around the likes of my channel now. But I'm glad I had him on back then. He's so hilarious. What a great guy. Really, really funny too. Really down to earth. Cool, approachable. But let me welcome everybody. Ghost Planet Max Inc., Darth Enigma, Eldritch Fan. Eldritch Fan said, we're going to hear about Batman versus Dracula. At first, I thought that was like a honest question. I'm ever going to talk about the animated series, the Batman animated film they did, which was a great film, Batman versus Dracula. But I think you're just talking about because I had Monsterverse and then Batman on the thing. Of course, my dear sweet Sound Engraver. Thank you for being here, telling me I'm too close to I don't think I'm too close to my mic. This is how close I always am to my mic. I think if it's still too hot, a gain knob must have gotten bumped or something when I was moving things around to be in the living room the other night. But we'll see. Everybody says it's okay. You can let me know how it goes. Nathaniel's Lowsball, Studio 96, Electric Barbarella, 27. Sorry, I always want to say 97. Great to see you. Tony Grigo, Leia Plus Size, Final Fantasy Fan, so many more. Great to see everybody here. Let's see. Final Fantasy said, just cut a Christmas tree yesterday and just began playing Batman Arkham City. Oh, sweet. That's interesting you say that. I just finished playing Arkham City all the way through. I do have a few. I'm going through the challenges right now. I never did go through each and every one of the challenges with all of the different characters. It's pretty easy to do all the challenges with Batman. But once you get to somebody like Catwoman or Nightwing, you don't have the cape, you can't do as much as you could with other characters, and then certain characters don't have as many gadgets as Batman does, or Robin's got different gadgets, Nightwing with the Eskrima sticks, it's a whole different ball game with each character. So I've been having fun going through those challenges, and sometimes Catwoman I think is the hardest. I think she's the hardest to do with the challenges, because when you jump up on predator perches, to stay out of the sight, she's a lot slower at doing that, because she's, obviously just climbing up versus, using a grappling hook. So it's fun. It's fun to do that. Just sometimes they kill me, but I just keep coming back to them. But I am actually going to start, I don't know if I'll start it tonight or tomorrow, playing Arkham Origins again. That's one of my Advent season games, because it takes place Christmas Eve night. And I just have to, I know I've talked about it before, but as long as we're just chatting and we're chatting about good stuff, and I'm making a conscious effort to really give a lot more recommendations of some stories for people to check out. Because I talk about, the drum that I constantly beat is stop consuming all the new content. It's one thing if something new really truly is proven for this or that reason, or it really does merit a chance for this or that reason. But some people, like, how many people are going out to watch Wicked who aren't even musical fans? But it's the new content and I gotta watch it because my channels are going to talk about it, so I gotta see it. And it's like watching media has become just a way for people to support their identities, constructed identities on the internet, with, we're anti-woke, so we got to watch all the stuff Disney does so we can make fun of it. I've talked about it before. Anyway, and I'm always talking about how, support the great stuff that you do love. It's tried and true, and there's so much more of it. You haven't watched everything, as I've said. So I've tried to, really bring to the front a lot of stories that, maybe you've seen, maybe you haven't, maybe you've read, maybe you haven't, but just constantly talking about. Somebody left a comment on my video. I cut out the video from last week's stream where I was talking about, look, just go back and watch the great stuff. And somebody said, well, what stories do you recommend? And I was like, have you watched my channel at all? Just go through the video list. I do reviews about a lot of this stuff. But for any of you who, for whatever reason, maybe haven't played Batman Arkham Origins yet, it is such a surprisingly good game. I think there were some technical issues with it, especially if you were trying to play it on computer. I'm a console guy myself, just easier. I don't have the, I can't rewire a computer. Oh, but you got to install the patch and do the upgrade and the thing. It's like, I don't have the head for that. I play very simple old retro games on computer, like Knights of the Old Republic or, The Witcher, the first Witcher. I just finished playing that on the computer, but, through Steam. But, I'm a console guy. So when, I think there were some problems with the computer or whatever, but consoles had no issues with Arkham Origins. I remember when it was coming out, I was cautious about it because this wasn't written by Paul Dini. Now, it was okay because they weren't taking a break from Paul Dini or anything. We didn't know at that point yet that Paul Dini wouldn't be writing what he should have written, the ultimate finale to the Arkham trilogy, Arkham Knight, Rocksteady just, or Rockstar, I get those mixed up. Rocksteady. They just, pitched him to the curb. Like, we can write. We've been doing this. Like, no, you can't. There's tons of holes in that story. But, we didn't know that yet. But they were going to take a long time working on Arkham Knight because that was the next generation game. And so the fans were like, okay, that's legitimate. It's Rocksteady. They take, a long time between games anyway. So Warner Brothers kicked it over to Warner Brothers Montreal Gaming and let them develop this Arkham Origins game. And I was, so I was a little weary of it at first, but totally willing to give it a chance. Different voice cast. Of course, Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill didn't come back to reprise those roles, but the cast they got was incredibly well. Troy Baker, who's usually just does Two-Face, but he did the Joker incredibly well. And I forgot the guy's name who did Batman in Arkham Origins, but he's the guy who did Enzo from Assassin's Creed, and he did a wonderful Batman. They really they kept it in the spirit of Conroy and Hamill's portrayals, but they didn't, just try to copy them outright. It was good. It was great. And this is a Batman who's been operating in Arkham and in Gotham City, I think, for 2 years. at that point, 1 year or 2 years. And it's just wonderful. It's Christmas Eve. It's the introduction of some characters like Bane, Copperhead, really cool iteration of Copperhead they do, and the introduction of Joker. Some people are mad because they bait and switched a little bit. They said this game, Black Mask is going to be the big crook of this game, and it ended up being the Joker masquerading as Black Mask. And so, if you were really upset for that, or you're really looking for a Black Mask game, I totally get that. I get that that's a legitimate criticism. But the game itself is surprisingly so well written. I mean, they apparently Jeff Johns was a consultant on a lot of it. And one of the cool things I like about it is they take a lot of the most iconic stories about the origins of Batman, like Year One or things like that. A lot of iconic stories about his first meetings with the Joker or whatever, and they really just distill them into the most iconic threads. It's really good. It is surprisingly good. And it has that Christmas vibe to it. You got the little Christmas music and stuff. I love the menu scene when you open it up, and it's got that dark version of Carol of the Bells and the cool, images of Batman and stuff. It's I wouldn't say it's my favorite Arkham City game or Arkham Universe game. I think that always has to be Arkham Asylum, just for that perfectly concise, hits all of the Aristotelian story unities, Paul Dini at his finest. It's a wonderful continuation of the animated verse, just a little bit, darker in game form. But I think that'd have to be my favorite. But Arkham Origins would probably be my second, even over Arkham City, I think. And I do love Arkham City. So, yeah, just for those, if you're a gamer and for whatever reason you didn't do Arkham Origins, you really should check it out, especially this holiday season. It's time to play it. It's set Christmas Eve night, and then there's a really cool extension DLC campaign that is a couple different campaigns, but the story campaign takes place New Year's Eve that same year and deals with Mr. Freeze, which is really great. But they've got some other like combat DLCs, him Bruce training, as a young Bruce Wayne training overseas, and Lady Shiva, Ra's al Ghul, so of course, and all of that. So it's good stuff. Robert Craig Smith, thank you. That's the voice actor. I couldn't think of his name, who does Batman in Arkham Origins. Yeah, apparently, Final Fantasy said it was some. It does lag a little bit every now and then to me too. Now that you mention it, it's not insurmountable by any means, but yeah, I mean, if that's your thing, like tech glitches or really bug you, maybe that game would bug you, but it's not insurmountable. Like I said, it doesn't hurt the gameplay. Big Al Presents is here. Good to see you, Big Al. Looks like a super chat here while I'm just prattling away. Eldritch Fan. There he is. Eldritch Fan says, I don't watch new movies, but I confess watching clips of good performances, like Defoe's return as Goblin and Molina's Doc Ock. Lots of characters I wish I could put in better stories. It looks like you're finishing your comment. I'll look for your conclusion there. But I do agree with what you're saying. Are there any characters from these new releases you wish you could put in other continuities? Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, like you said, that's Hollywood's MO right now. They don't want to admit, or Warner Brothers. Let's just pin it on Warner Brothers first. But Marvel's doing it too, and they did it with the not Into the Spider-Verse, Long Way or No Way Home. We don't want to admit that we're wrong. We don't want to break continuity. But we're going to pretend that we're listening to fans now, so we'll start bringing back all of these characters that they've been saying they wanted for decades, and we've just turned a deaf ear to because we're stupid. Suddenly they bring them back, but they put them in their garbage continuities. I will forever mourn the tragedy of finally bringing Michael Keaton back as Batman, and it was in Ezra Miller's freaking Flash movie. Not enough people are pissed off about that. People need to be constantly pissed off about that. Warner Brothers should face enormous sanctions, more than they did for that utterly failed film. But the masses are just, I'll forgive you. Put out another one. So, yeah, and I'd look up little clips just to see him in the costume again. I would never watch the movie. Don't care for that at all. But yeah, I'd look up a clip of William Dafoe as Goblin or something like that. I mean, the clip of Tobey Maguire is in the spider suit again. That was amazing. And how many people? I mean, it worked. Disney knew what they were doing. Disney, Sony, whatever, knew what they were doing. I mean, how many people said, yeah, I hear what you're saying, Prof, but I gotta go see it for Toby. He's my guy, or Andrew Garfield. I gotta go see them if they're in it again. They knew what they're doing. They absolutely know what they're doing. They know how to suck people in. When it comes to geeks and geek franchises, they really are cocaine addicts. They can't say no. They cannot say no. They pretend that they say no, or they'll try to justify. It's just like talking to an addict. Well, I mean, I'm not a smoker anymore, but hey, this was the situation here, and I had to do that. They've got a story or a justification for everything. So nothing makes me lose respect for people more. It's one thing if you're a Big Al, okay? If you're a Big Al and you're just like, oh, find the good in everything. All right, you infuriate me, but at least you're consistent, right? You're not a hypocrite, right? I can respect Big Al for being, he's got some integrity at least in staying consistent to what he says and what he does. Infuriates me, but he's consistent. But so many people who pretend to be on the anti-woke train or whatever, and they just roll right into that, gotta give my ticket so I can know what's going on, drives me nuts. I agree, Gentle Savage. Arkham Origins is seriously underrated. It has the best version of Bane. You're right. I've ever seen in a Batman adaptation. Yeah, I like Bane in Arkham Asylum and Arkham City, but that's a really good exploration of his character in Arkham Origins, because we see him. He's still addicted to Venom, but we see him kind of pre-Venom rage, and then we see him when he really pumps it all into his system and becomes the oversized monster. And man, that is terrifying. I don't get scared, and stuff like that. But when you're in games and there's a tense moment, that I won't ruin it for people who haven't played it. But the final climactic battle in Arkham Origins involves Bane, and it's pretty freaking. It gets you on the edge of your seat. First time I played it, I was like, oh crap. It's kind of like the first time I played the Killer Croc's Lair in Asylum, and you hear his voice. You're just walking on these planks in the water, and you never know when he's going to jump up, and all you hear is his, I've got your scent, Batman. Rip your flesh like paper. It's freaking crazy. I do that voice for Sound Engraver sometimes. She hates it. Ghost Planet. Yeah, I was wondering about this. Arkham Shadow just came out, and they retconned Two-Face's origin and race swamp Dr. Tompkins and lock up and Otis Flanagan. I was wondering if Arkham Shadow, that's the VR game, right? Is that the VR? Rocksteady is putting out another Arkham game, hoping that they'll be able to lure people back after their garbage Suicide Squad crap. And I think it's a VR game. Is that the one with the rat catcher? I was wondering if it was going to be any good, because the little teaser trailer they put out looked like, they were at least getting the aesthetics right. But yeah, you can't. DEI ruins everything. I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but darn it, I've just got to say it. This ties into something I'm going to talk about tonight, actually. And when you talk to proponents of DEI, it's infuriating because they don't get it. They just keep beating the same drum, singing the same tune. What's wrong with diversity and equity and inclusion? That's just about giving opportunities to more people. What's wrong? Are you a racist? Are you a bigot? What's wrong with DEI? There's two things wrong with DEI. Okay, so on the one hand, a lot of people, and this kind of, I think people haven't thought this through. A lot of people who see the problems that DEI has with story. Let's go for that first, right? Because when you're writing something and you have the mindset of conforming to DEI agendas, then that's what rules your story writing. It's not how well can you craft a story. It's how many different races can I fit in here? How many different gender swaps can I fit? How many different, identities can I put in here for, how inclusive am I going to be? They can't help but to think about that over story, and it kills it. It kills the story. One big example that I'll talk about a little bit in a moment, but Monarch. I love the Monsterverse. I'll talk about that in a moment. And the one thing I hadn't seen was Monarch. I hadn't seen the new movie yet because I was just waiting for DVD. Didn't get to see it in the theaters. But I thought, well, let me just watch this series. I've heard mixed reviews. I don't usually watch new stuff, but the Monsterverse movies had really impressed me by, consistently keeping all that garbage out. If you liked a movie or didn't like a movie, the one thing you could say was there's no woke garbage in it. Now, again, I haven't seen the most recent one. So I watched Monarch, and it was such cool storytelling, such cool world building, in the overall universe. Kirk Russell is Lee Shaw. Amazing. His son playing the younger version of Lee Shaw. Just wonderful characters you were engaged in, you cared about. And yet they have these 4, if you count Mrs. Randa. I can't remember her first name. Kiko Randa? Yeah, I think so. She's insufferable too for a more large portion of the show. It's an Asian woman, and then in the future, or in the present, it's her Asian granddaughter, her Asian grandson, and then his black ex-girlfriend. All right, so we got the DEI, wet dream right there come to life for these people. Oh, and the Asian girl is also a lesbian. Gotta click off all the marks. There's not a problem with any of them being any of those races. That's not a problem. But the problem is you can tell they're being written so that we need to make these strong, independent. They have to be the kinds of characters that young girls will look up to and so forth. And they are insufferable. They are so two-dimensional. You don't give a crap about any of these characters. There were so many times during that series where I just had to fast forward, just like skip ahead 30 seconds, 5 minutes or whatever. That intense scene that they were going to do. So I was freezing for a second there. Whenever they had an intense scene, character building moment that they were going to have, it's garbage. They had no flaws. They apologized for nothing. The flaws that they clearly had, the show doesn't treat as flaws. The little lesbian girl is just like sleeping around with every girl. Like she's got this one girlfriend who loves her and wants to move in with her, and she's just screwing around with somebody else. The series never even addresses that, never even calls her out for it. She never even has to apologize for it or anything. And of course, the men in it, other than Lee Shaw, Kurt Russell's character is a good example, but their father is just a jerk. Has 2 different families. And then his son, he's an artist, and he's just useless throughout the whole thing. Just a whiny little, just insufferable 3 little brat characters, and it's because of DEI. Has nothing to do with the races that they are. That's fine. They still could have been great characters if they were written like real characters. But the writers of the show were so DEI, conformed minded that they had to. We can't show these characters in a bad light. We can't show these characters in a bad light. They're characters. There should be 3-dimensional characters. Mrs. Randa, the Kiko Randa, the Asian woman, she's an Asian scientist in the 40s. Okay, so of course, have a scene or whatever where people are like, wait a minute, you're a woman or you're a Japanese woman. This is, post-World War II. Sure, she's going to face some discrimination. Sure. But literally every time you see her, she's like, correct, it's not Miss, it's Doctor. And she is just a horrible person. You don't enjoy being around her as a viewer. It's not until you see her with her son that suddenly she becomes a human character. Now, feminists will just outrage, not every woman has to be a mother. Sorry, the essential nature of womanhood is motherhood. Not that every woman is a mother, but that compassion, that nurturing aspect. And it's not until you see her with her son that she becomes a human character and you can actually, enjoy different aspects to her, this and that. And that's the problem with DEI. Now, the other thing, a lot of people get that and they'll say, look, there's nothing wrong with being diverse. There's nothing wrong with inclusion. Oh, that's great. But, you need to make sure you write a good story. I disagree with that slightly. There's nothing wrong objectively with diversity or inclusiveness or anything. But the problem is when you write a story and you try to make it diverse, your story ends up being hurt. So for example, if your character is walking down a New York City street and a gang is attacked by a gang, whether you're reading a comic book or in a movie or whatever, look at that gang. They're going to have to be some white people, some black people, some Hispanic people, some this and that. That's not how gangs work. I mean, maybe 1 or 2, but that's not how gangs work. Gangs are usually really by racial lines, whether on purpose or just because of demographic and neighborhood or so forth. And, that's so that kind of adherence to diversity, equity, and inclusion ends up making a really weird world that they're portraying in the universe. It takes you out because it's so unrealistic and whatnot. It's yeah, Trump's the greatest thing Donald Trump ever said. You can like him or hate him, but there's one incredibly true thing he said, which was everything woke turns to shit. It's just bam, best thing the man ever said. And DEI is part of that. DEI is an example of that. Yeah. So anyway, my rant on that. Maybe I'll move into. Oh, I didn't even know about this, Leia plus size. DEI casting of live action Voltron. Wow. I would not want anything to do with the live action Voltron. I was somewhat excited when I think it was Netflix, right, was doing the Voltron series again, but then I heard what they were doing with it, and it was like, pass, hard pass. I liked Voltron growing up. I even had the big full Voltron robot that you could control, with the remote control. And I like the characters. I mean, it was a good show. It was a good show. But yeah, please stop remaking things. Please stop bringing things back. No one can do it right. Just stop. Yes, Sound Engraver. Stargate is diversity done right. Amen. That's why, please don't ever bring back Stargate. I just don't trust anybody to be able to do it. Don't do it. That's a whole other rant. That's for another stream. I'll get into that. Because on one hand, I would like it, but yeah, we'll talk about that later. All right, so I already brought up the Monsterverse. As I said, the Monsterverse, Godzilla, the first one in the Legendary universe, came out in 2014. And I loved it. I really loved it. I know a lot of hardcore Godzilla fans were looking for more Godzilla. They were looking for more of the old kaiju stuff. But the thing I like about Legendary's universe, Monsterverse, is that it's on one hand it's trying to please, traditional kaiju fans. I'm not one. I'm not a traditional kaiju fan. Nothing against it, but I don't have the interest to go back and watch all of those really old movies. Just I don't know. But Legendary adds something to that universe that's an ingredient that actually makes it appeal to me, which is the incredible human stories in each one, and also the focus on family in each and every one. And I got to stop right now, because I know right now somebody's going to say, bro, you got to watch Godzilla and Son. You got to watch this one. You got to watch this one. I was really into the Monsterverse for a while there, and I stopped. I stopped for a while because kaiju fans are not all kaiju fans, but a lot of kaiju fans can be just as insufferable as anime fans. Anime fans did this to me with anime too. You're walking along and you find something that you enjoy. Like, hey, I really enjoy this series. This is really good. And then the crows just descend upon you and they're like, oh, you gotta watch this. And oh no, don't just watch that. Make sure you watch that too. And I get it. You like something. Great. I don't need a coach. Okay. I found something I enjoyed. I'm going to enjoy it by myself. I don't need a consultant, so back off. Nothing sucks the fun out of something more than a super fan sitting next to you, But anyway, so the Legendary Universe, I like that the focus on family in each and every film, and the the explorations of it and so forth, and the focus on the human stories and whatnot. And it was, so 2014 was before the late teens when we really got crazy with the woke nonsense. And it was the hashtag Me Too movement, eventually the Black Lives Matter movement, and culture was just, if you weren't on board, then you didn't exist, or you were a monster. Those were your only two options. You were a horrible, evil Nazi, or you didn't exist. They just didn't acknowledge your existence or your behavior, or your viewpoints at all. Incidentally, that's why the media is going out of its mind, because the election didn't go the way they wanted, because they spent the last, 8 years pretending that a whole other side of the country didn't exist. And guess what? We don't go away just because you pretend to not acknowledge us. So anyway, all over the place here. But, the Monsterverse kept on. What was King of Monsters? Was that 2018 or 2019? So it was somewhat recent. Of course, Godzilla versus Kong was recent. So they kept making films even into a lot of the Hollywood nonsense woke stuff. But they kept it out of the films. Again, I haven't seen the most recent film. I'm going to watch that probably this weekend or this week. But they kept it out of the film. So I was impressed by that. And I would even go and find the comic book tie-ins. Really enjoyed all the comic book tie-ins. The very first one was Godzilla Awakening. And if you watch the first movie and then you watch Kong Skull Island, Godzilla King of Monsters, you know of the character of Dr. Serizawa. He's the character in King of Monsters who has to go help revive Godzilla when he's down, you know. I won't say too much about his story because I don't want to give anything away to anybody who might not have seen this or that movie. And Godzilla King of Monsters, or Godzilla Awakening, is a great graphic novel, and it tells the story of Serizawa's father. Because, you know, when you meet Serizawa in the films, he's the one really pushing for Godzilla is the one who's going to try and help us. He's not here to hurt us, guys. He's the one who would fight these other monsters who are, you know, disordering the natural system. Godzilla's the one that nature has brought about to provide order. He's the true alpha, you know, of the Titans, and he's the one that, you know, keeps everything in balance so that they're not all running amok and causing, you know, all kind of harm and killing people, you know. And the movies do a great job of, like, it's like Godzilla's almost sentient. He's not quite. I mean, he is sentient. He's not. He's almost like human awareness. Like, he's almost aware of us and almost trying to protect us. Not quite, though. He's still a big monster. You know, it's a great line that they walk. But this was a good exploration of that background. It has the character of Lee Shaw in it, Colonel Shaw from the military. It's got its own sort of account of the beginnings of Monarch and whatnot. The Monarch series, one of the things that I disliked about it right off the bat was that it totally retcons this whole book. Like, just throw this book out if you accept the Monarch series continuity, because they take Lee Shaw and he's a total different character. They run muck with the timeline. This book doesn't even count anymore, which I think is really stupid, especially because they take certain beats from this book. You know, it's a graphic novel. That means it's definitely not, you know, it's 4 or 5 issues, whatever it was. It's not a totally fleshed out story like you would be able to ultimately do in a television series. But it could have been. They could have really taken this story and really mapped it out. Instead, they were just fixated on giving us these 3 little brats, you know, crappy 2-dimensional characters that, you know, had all of their DEI nonsense and wouldn't, you know, and they demolished the story. At least they had Lee Shaw in it, and like I said, Kurt Russell's character and his son's portrayal of him during the flashbacks are great. So overall, the world building's pretty cool. You know, gets into the Hollow Earth, gets into the time dilations and whatnot, and the inconsistencies between time here and there through the gravitational pulls and so forth. But they clearly took a lot from this graphic novel and just like threw it out, but, you know, did their own thing, which I think was crappy. They should have stuck more to this. Some of the things they did was neat. You know, I like the idea of Lee Shaw being younger than he should be because of the time difference when he was in the Hollow Earth and stuff. So, you know, cool ideas, but a lot of issues there. On the one hand, they still did focus on family, but the series, the time you got to spend with the family themes wasn't enough. The time you got to spend with the family themes, they tried to do it a lot through these 3 main characters who were just, you know, insufferable is the best word I can put for you. They're annoying on every level. I kept trying to like something about them, and every time you try to like something about them, they would just pull that away from you too. The woke can't write. They can't write 3-dimensional characters. They're so fixated and so concentrated on writing a poster child for their ideology that the character just ends up crappy. You know, I mean, this is nothing new. This is Captain Marvel, right? This is Brie Larson's Captain Marvel. There's nothing likable about her in that movie. Take away Brie Larson, take her out of the equation. You know, forget everything she said and all of the hubbub she created moving up to the film, and just take the character on the screen. She's just unlikable, absolutely unlikable, because she's so carefully written to be their little poster child and not a 3-dimensional character. And unfortunately, Monarch does fall into that. I don't know if they're going to do a sequel to it. Probably. There are some unanswered questions. I don't know if I'd watch a sequel. I'm hoping that doesn't bode for what's going to await me in the latest film. And like I said, I know you guys have seen that, but I haven't watched that quite yet. So let me check in with the chat a little bit here because I've been going and going and going. Dr. Y, good to see you there. Said the Monsterverse strikes me as a modern take of the 1960s, 1970s Godzilla films. Think of it, King of the Monsters has the same monster cast as Ghidorah, the three-headed monster. I don't know about that, because I don't know those classic ones. But yeah, I know they're taking from the old movies, definitely. I know Ghidorah, Rodan, Mothra. I mean, I know they're all from those old movies. So yeah. I agree, Steve Jones. So yeah, Ken Watanabe is a great actor, definitely. Let's see, you guys were correcting me on what year these things came out. Yeah, Bradley Renfro, 2016's Ghostbusters. I think that is when it really hit, isn't it? You know, things might be traced back to that one film when Hollywood just went nuts with this stuff. It's true. Mel Winus says, the problem is that terms like diversity sound fine, but the word does not mean what we think it means. It is incorporated into an ideological framework with a changed meaning. You're right. Same thing with equity. People hear equity and they think equality. And what's wrong with equality? No, that's not the same. Equity is everyone gets the same. Not everyone has the same opportunities. Everyone gets the same. And, so much for merit at that point, and skill and talent or anything like that. Let's see. Chol says the Washington Redskins are coming back. I heard something about that. I'm not a sports guy, but Redskins were always growing up. They were like the closest big National Football League team to me that people would follow or whatever. So I'd grow up with people at school wearing the Redskins logos and whatnot. And I thought it was so stupid when they changed that, but apparently they're bringing it back. That's pretty cool. No one even remembers or knows the word they changed it to. It was so dumb. Eldritch fan said the only thing Godzilla fears is the disapproval of his giant moth girlfriend. I was thinking about what is the appeal of kaiju films or just giant monster movies in general. Pacific Rim, I don't know. I haven't really seen Pacific Rim, so I don't know if I can really lump this in there with that. But Godzilla, the Kong movies, the what's the turtle? Gamera. I might be pronouncing that wrong. Al, correct me if I am. But on the one hand, there's the surface level appeal, which is, hey, it's just cool to see some big freaking monsters, and I don't mean to diminish that. That's a real appeal, especially for guys. Like, oh, that's so cool. Knock that building over, whatever. It's fiction. So there's that appeal. But I think there's a real deeper psychological appeal in a film like that reminds you that there are things bigger than you in the universe. Not just you, but there are things bigger than humanity in the universe. And on one level, it can speak to sort of a mankind's desire for a god, a greater being, a greater meaning, a greater purpose. And there's something so viscerally appealing, especially the way the Legendary universe plays it out, where they're here on Earth. They got their own system, their own functions, their own sense of order. And on the one hand, humanity is part of that order, but we're not the center of that order, right? We're stepping stones for that. Like, Godzilla will come to save humanity in terms of, we don't know if that's why he's doing it. It's more instinct. He's going to take out this challenger, but or this person, messing up the order of things, the natural order of things. And so he's there saving humanity, but at the same time, he's not going to, be careful about who he steps on or this and that while he's saving humanity, and that can only work for a monster like a kaiju, You can't do Superman like that, Zack Snyder. But, it works. There's something, I don't know. There's just something so viscerally appealing about a greater sense of order that predates and undermines all of our advancements, all of our progress, technological and so forth, all falls to sticks, like a pile of sticks in comparison, no matter how much we try, and there's something, I think that speaks to you call it the human desire for God ultimately, but a human desire for, or need for, a greater purpose, a greater meaning, something greater than ourselves in the cosmos, Nathaniel Loseball says, since we're going into the holiday season, might I recommend giving the animated film Klaus a try this year? Done by Disney veterans and contains the same magic we've been starving to see again. Yes, I'm laughing, Nathaniel Loseball. I don't know if you were the one that constantly, but so many people constantly tell me Klaus. And yeah, I didn't know what it was at first when people started recommending it, but then I looked it up. It's like, oh, that looks interesting. And for whatever reason, I never got around to it in the past, but I will. Keep reminding me, because there's certain things I want to watch this year for the Christmas season. Part of me wants to kind of do a deep dive study into the Christmas Carol. You know, Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol, kind of like I did with the Universal Monster archetypes for Halloween. Now, it wouldn't be as expansive because I'm just looking at one story, but all the different iterations of the story and the ways that story influences culture, becomes part of the vernacular, influences other films that aren't necessarily adaptations of the story, but their own, influenced by or whatever. Then I'm really interested in going back and looking at movies that are set during Christmas time, but that aren't actual Christmas movies. Like I know everybody thinks Die Hard, but I'm thinking like Batman Returns, obviously. Rambo: First Blood, actually takes place during Christmas time. You see like Christmas trees in the police station and whatnot. Same thing for New Year's, Ghostbusters 2 on New Year's Eve. And there are other ones. I had a whole list of them in my head the other day, but they're not coming back to me just now. Eldritch Fan says, man, kaiju are just Cthulhu light. I take them or leave them. See, I've never been in, I'm not a huge Lovecraftian fan. I mean, I get it. I respect him, and I know the work's important, but just in terms of personal taste, that's the one thing that I'm not big on when it comes to kaiju. Like Big Al was just, like a lot of you are trying to sell me that Godzilla -1 is the greatest movie ever. And I might watch it one day. Apparently it has a great human story, which is awesome. But Godzilla is just he's a true monster. He wants to kill people in that. And that's the one thing I like about the Legendary universe is they took kaiju and made them heroes to a certain extent. I did a whole video about Kong Skull Island, especially how Kong is a superhero in that movie, basically, and Godzilla to the same extent, especially in King of Monsters. Well, even in the first one, taking out the other Motus and stuff. So, yeah, but I do get the appeal to people who just like big evil monsters too. I mean, there's an appeal to that kind of thing as well. So I don't mean to diminish it. I'm just talking about personal taste here. That's all. Gentle Savage says, have you ever watched the DreamWorks film called Rise of the Guardians? It's a movie that reimagines all the famous holiday-themed characters as Avenger-style superheroes. I heard about that, and it caught my eye when it came out. For whatever reason, though, I never got around to seeing it. But it's an interesting premise. I don't know anything about the film. I don't know what kind of reviews it got or if people liked it or not. But it sounds like you like it, though. And I do like the premise. The premise is pretty fun. Samuel Proctor, good to see you, says, I'm currently having so much fun reading the 80s Marvel Indiana Jones comic run. I never knew that existed. It was before Temple of Doom, so they keep Marion pretty much the whole time and develop their relation. Well, that's cool, because isn't Temple of Doom technically a prequel? I know some people don't see it that way, but I thought that Temple of Doom is supposed to take place like before the Ark film. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me talk about these though, the Batman stuff, before I look into more comments or look into anything else, because we're still got plenty of time to chat here, but we're running a little closer to my usual hour limit. I talked about last time, and I cut it out as a video, how I've been going into the Legends of the Dark Knight run from its inception in the 1990, I think it was. And I followed the first four. I think we did the four arcs, which are collected as graphic novels. The next two are, which I have here, pulling them out of the bag and board, are two 3-issue arcs that aren't collected as graphic novels. So it was, I think, check my light here to make sure I got part one right. Yeah. Mike W. Barr, the artist is Bart Sears, did a 3-part series called Faith, Batman Faith. And it's a pretty cool series. It deals with, again, the Legend of the Dark Knight is a young Batman. Sometimes year 1, sometimes year 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, but youngish Batman. And they usually deal with just Batman. They're not the greater DC universe. I mean, it's still a Batman who exists in the greater DC universe, but these stories usually just focus on him. And we've got, in some ways, what could be called like the beginnings of the Batmen that you see in Frank Miller's Psycho Dark Knight Returns, the thugs on the street who wear bat masks on their face and try to, all that kind of nonsense. But here's an example, a story of it, in which this thug is saved by Batman, inspired by him and so forth, and starts this gang of Batmen who go out and, try to clean up the streets themselves and do Batman's work. And at first he's, kind of, good, that's great, that's what I'm trying to inspire. But they end up, of course, being way too brutal. They end up trying to kill and so forth. And it's a great story. It's actually a really great story. It's got a great ending to it, a really great ending to it. I won't spoil it though. The one thing I'll say though is I don't like the art. I kind of hate the art, honestly. There's the cover for it. I hate it. It's not that I can't roll with it now and then. I know there are a lot of costumes out there that do this, but I hate a Batman costume with tiny little ears. That makes the cowl just a helmet. It's not a helmet. It's supposed to be a cowl. He's supposed to look like a freaking bat. Give him some ears. Stop with this tiny little nubs. It's like, just don't even put them on there at all. Then just give him a helmet. So I hate that. But in the arts, it's skilled art. It's not. I'm not saying it's subpar. I'm just talking about my personal taste. I do not like art like this, where it's so stylized and so, Batman looks like a Frank Miller Batman. He looks like a angry old dumpy old man. When the muscles are so rippled that you look deformed. Come on, back it off a little bit. But that's just me. The story though, it's really good. It's definitely iconic Batman. It's called Batman Faith. What issues are they? It's let me look at the light here. Batman 23, 22 and 21. I'm sorry, Batman Legends of the Dark Knight 21, 22 and 23 from the early 90s. That's and it's pretty solid. Like I said, story-wise it's really fun. So, recommend that meets the iconic Batman meter for me. And the next one I read was the other 3-part issue, which is, I think, even better. I really like this even better in a lot of ways. It's called Batman Flyer, and it's by Howard Chaykin. And Gil Kane does the art, so it's good. Art and everything is really good. And again, it's a young Batman. And one of the themes of this is that, Batman's having fun being Batman. And he meets this guy in this suit, this flying suit, who's coming after him. He finds out, through some reasons and issues, whatever, that this guy is the son of a Nazi scientist who came over, or I guess the grandson of a Nazi scientist, but his daughter did a lot of this stuff and whatever. And it ties into Batman Year One, the graphic novel. If you remember the scene when the SWAT team has Batman cornered in the abandoned building, and he has to call in the bats to put the signal out and call in the bats to swarm and give him a cover to escape. It ties into that. I won't give all the ways it does. I want to say more about it, but I don't want to ruin it for you. But there's a really cool themes here, especially between this guy's mother, this sick Nazi scientist mother who came over to America to work for the government, really cool themes and a really cool, weird, twisted story with her. But it in the end, Batman learns to take being Batman, because Batman's a balance, right? He's driven and he's dedicated, he's devoted, he's constant self-disciplined. So there's a lot of work to being Batman, obviously. But there's got to be some fun to being Batman too, right? I mean, we know he doesn't do it just because it's fun. He's not, Spider-Man. Not that that's the only reason Spider-Man does it. But, you don't expect to see Batman giggling out there, swinging around. He's not supposed to be smiling all the time. But there's some level of fun to it. And this deals with getting into the balance of, no, I need to take this seriously. It is kind of fun. It's my calling, but I need to take this seriously, but otherwise people get hurt and so forth. It's just, it's a cool exploration of that. So Batman Flyer by Howard Chaykin and Gil Kane, really good, really good. The 3 covers there are beautiful. Art's wonderful. really good stuff. So recommend that too. A 3-part arc. That's done. Next up, I haven't read it yet. It's coming to me in the mail, which I'm really excited about because it's another 3-part series, I think, called Faces. It has to do with Two-Face, but it's by Matt Wagner. So I'm psyched about that. There's also a 3-issue, I'll be reviewing this probably next week, a 3-issue crossover event that was in Batman, Detective Comics, and Batman Legend of the Dark Knight, which was called Destroyer, which featured Anton Furst, designs and art by Anton Furst. So I'm looking forward to reading that as well. And I'll keep going through this line for a while. I mean, I won't cover the whole thing to the very end, but I'm just enjoying it. I'm enjoying this era of Batman stories. I'm enjoying a lot of them are really better. They're more good stories than there are subpar ones, you know. So I'm enjoying that. So definitely wanted to just pitch those out there in that review. Gentle Savage said, have you ever read Iron Fist comics by Matt Fraction? Also, Rise of the Guardians movie is really good, but it flopped at the box office because it didn't make much money. Yeah, I didn't know that. No, I've never read. Well, I did read like the first Iron Fist arc, like the big arc, his very first arc, basically the whole story of him going, coming back from. I'm blanking on the name of the place that he was at, when this plane wrecked and whatnot, because it's been so long since I read it. But coming back as Iron Fist, being a hero, but he's also on a search for revenge. He wants to kill the person who was responsible for making the plane crash and killing his parents. And it's his decision, not to kill, not to seek revenge, not to be a murderer, but to be a hero. I love that story arc. I don't know if that was Fraction or not, but that's the only Iron Fist that I've read. Just the origin stories, and the origin of Heroes for Hire too. I read Power Man's origin as well, Luke Cage's, but never read any farther than that. So, but if you say it's good, I did like the character of Iron Fist in that origin story anyway. So I'd have to check it out. Daniel Loswell said, "Real talk." Here you go, Eldritch fan. What is the appeal of Lovecraft? I don't get it. His stories feel like the product of a highly paranoid mind who doesn't even understand why he is afraid of whatever it is he's afraid of. I'm letting Eldritch fan answer that because Eldritch fan's the Lovecraft guy. From my understanding of it, and again, I'm somebody who Lovecraft doesn't really appeal to, so I haven't read a ton of his stories. I steer clear of it just because it doesn't appeal to me. But I do know that he's influenced a lot of writers after him, horror and whatnot. But I'm such a big fan of Edgar Allan Poe that I can see that same kind of thing at work in Lovecraft. He's really good at atmosphere. He's not as good at the language as Poe. Poe is a master at language. Lovecraft isn't the master wordsmith, but he achieves that atmosphere. He achieves that level of terror as an effect, and if you're into horror stuff, I can easily see why, you a lot of people would gravitate to Lovecraft, but Eldritch fan says, just as part of the answer to it, is he's afraid of the decay of civilization, or everything he loves decaying and dissolving and passing into history. Yeah, and that's a theme in his work, definitely. Definitely. So, yeah, good question, good answers, good discussion. Imaginative Hobbyist says, what would you say the Scarlet Pimpernel is an ancestor, or would you say the Scarlet Pimpernel is an ancestor of the superhero? Absolutely. He is often described as the first superhero by some. Yeah, and I get that. In fact, I never heard of the Scarlet Pimpernel growing up, and then in college, my undergrad, I was reading something that referenced it, and I looked it up and was like, oh, well, that's like a superhero. So I went back and read the original stories, and it's basically a British aristocrat during the time of the French Revolution. And he dresses up as the Scarlet Pimpernel, and he goes and saves people, other British aristocrats, or just British people who are being persecuted by the French Revolution over in Paris and whatnot. And it's interesting. You can tell that the Superman stories are highly influenced by this as well, because you're in the perspective of the Scarlet Pimpernel's wife, who doesn't know that her husband is the Scarlet Pimpernel. And she knows her husband to be this layabout, idiot, kind of typical foppish aristocrat who's useless to everybody. And so it's kind of like Lois Lane looking down on Clark, but being so in awe of Superman. It's the same kind of dynamic. And it's yeah, I really enjoyed that. I just read the one novel, the first one, but I enjoyed it, and I definitely think that's a precursor to the superhero, definitely, because that was written. Those were written in. It was before Victorian era, wasn't it? Let me. Pimpernel. I know there's like some films they did in the 30s and whatnot. Apparently they did a film in the 80s. I didn't know that. Let me look this up. Okay, so Baroness Orczy wrote it in 1905. I knew it was Baroness something, but I couldn't think of the name. Oh, interesting. The movie in the 80s they did. I never saw that. Jane Seymour. Interesting. I need to go watch those. I never saw any of the film adaptations. That's pretty cool. I'll have to look at that. Yeah, Artila looking down at Prince Adam. Yeah, because Batman Filmation definitely took that whole Superman structure like that. Samuel Proctor says, I watched The Mask of Zorro last month. That's when I realized, boy, Batman's origin writers are on the nose when making Bruce Wayne watch it the night he was born. Yeah, not every origin story has him watching Zorro, but I like the ones that do because that fits, you know. But yeah, Mask of Zorro. You mean like one of the classic movies, or you mean like the Antonio Banderas? I like the ones they did in the '90s with Antonio Banderas and Catherine Zeta-Jones. They were good, but yeah, the classic ones are great. In fact, that you can. The old series that Disney did in the 50s, I think they released it as a film. They released like the first 5 episodes as a film overseas or something like that, but you can still go watch the original series. It's a lot of fun. It's a part of California history that a lot of people don't realize, you know, all of the back and forth and who came to power, the Spain or the Californian natives and so forth, long before it ever became the state of California as the U.S., you know. Oh, I didn't know that, Sound Engraver. Your 8th grade class saw the film Scarlet Pimpernel. Which one? The one in the 80s or the classic from the 30s? I'll probably have to watch them both. There you go. Dr. Wise got the dates there. Well, the Wikipedia I just looked up, I think said 1905 for the novel, but Scarlet Pimpernel was 1909, Zorro 1919, Lone Ranger debuted in 1933. Yeah, I dug into the Lone Ranger's history a lot. Blanking on the guy's name who wrote it, but it was a radio DJ who wrote it for a publicity kind of thing. Guy Williams is Zorro. Yeah, I agree. Bradley Renfro. Good stuff. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize. I remember being in a creative writing workshop, and somebody was writing about a guy in the, I think for like World War II, and he was saying something about Lone Ranger, and the teacher was like, I don't think Lone Ranger was around by then, because she only knew the 50s show, the Disney show, you know. And I was like, oh no, he was a radio serial or radio star long before he became the television and film star. Yeah, Aiken Lord. Yeah, California has some really interesting history, as does Texas. You know, a lot of the western states. It's something that, you know, growing up in the eastern part of the U.S. as I did, I love the fact that I really got such a good grounding, and it's because I'm interested in it too. So I did a lot of research and digging into it. But I got such a good grounding in, you know, the history of the eastern United States and the colonizations and, you know, the revolution and all of that. But it's easy for us to get, who are so fixated on that part of history, to forget that, you know, the western part of the U.S. had a really long and fascinating history long before, you know, statehood came to any of those territories or areas, with different people, you know, in power, not just the Spanish or French, but, you know, the you know, people rising up for independence at times and so forth. So it's pretty cool to study, and a lot of great stories could be told in that era, as Zorro shows us. All right, well, I'm going to wind down here because I'm after my hour mark. A little tired today, too. It's been a crazy Thanksgiving week. I mean, great one. But had my daughter through it all, and she was having a blast. We decorated for Christmas yesterday. Still got some stuff to put up, but she goes nuts with that. She's a Christmas nut. She loves it. So she was overstimulated and everything. And Saturdays, you know, I drop her off or rush home, get ready for Mass, go to Mass, slam down a nap, do a stream. So now I'm ready to, you know, decompress and relax a bit. But good hanging out with you guys. Really great conversation. You guys bring out some really cool comments and cool topics. Appreciate that. I'll keep up with the with reviewing some stories. Like I said, I'll talk more about because I'm going to read this weekend. There's a graphic novel prequel to the Godzilla Kong A New Empire movie. So I'm going to read the prequel and then I'll watch the film and I'll talk about that. Okay. Sound Engraver popped over. Don't forget my stream. Sound Engraver stream tomorrow. Probably the usual time, 7 or 5:45ish. She put a link in here in the chat somewhere. She's got a great topic. She's going to be talking. She was talking about some modern art and stuff. I don't want to give it away, but the grifting when it comes to art and things in the art world and things in the other implications of it. Looking for the. Sorry, love, I can't find the link. You'll have to put the link again, and I'll share it. But yeah, she put the link there too. So Sound Engraver's channel. Go look that up. She'll be streaming tomorrow. But yeah, I'll keep up with some good reviews and whatnot, and keep up with more. I might, I don't know. A lot of things are kind of figuring out things for looking ahead to the spring and the summer. I might go to 2 streams a week if I have content to talk about. If I want to go that route, I don't know. Things to think about. But yeah, so you'll see. I'll cut out some of this for some videos. I'll be back at least by next Saturday, if not before. And there's Sound Engraver stream for tomorrow. Thank you guys. Good chatting. And until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the true blue hero stories you love.